Well, for Peter, Orton and I, it seems like it's been a really long wait for Easter 2022, but for David Redvers it's been even longer. It's been 2 years since you've been able to set foot in the country. Neither of you have wasted any time getting into the thick of it, both as a buyer, you're also looking forward to acting as a vendor as well, and Peter, obviously you enjoyed great success, most notably with a close relation to Artorias going through today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Commiserations on the many you probably got beaten on today, David. What is your impression of the Easter market, but also the Aussie market thus far in 2022, looking from afar?
We always look with nothing but sort of green-eyed envy from home because of the depth of the buyers' bench. And I thought Sebastian Hutch summed it up brilliantly on the radio on the way in the car today, saying that the great thing about the market here is that everybody feels they've got a chance of buying the horse they like or buying into the horse they like. So the whole thing feels much more dynamic, much more buzz about it, and you know, I wouldn't do this at home in the same way, but here we're thinking, crikey, who bought that? Should we go and have a word and say, well, we'll take the percentage of it? And that doesn't work like that in Europe because, you know, you've got big buyers who don't share horses. So for me, it's probably one of the most exciting yearling sales of the year, simply because I feel that every single horse in the place is attainable. And how we go about putting the deals together is part of the magic.
Expectation's a heck of a thing, though, isn't it, Peter? I mean, it has been a buoyant year since January from a market perspective. Today, day one, and I know there's still a bit of selling to be done, and there's a few that passed in that there's still a bit of selling to be done of them, but there has been sort of up and down patches with Easter. What's been your read on day one of Easter?
I think it's a bit of a general trend at Easter. So that we've got a market like this. It's really designed at the top end, a boutique type market in itself. The buyers come here looking for that elite animal a little bit. There's that sort of feel about the sale. Certainly Inglis's have done well to generate to people that they're great buying in the middle and lower ranges as well, which tend to get overlooked from time to time. But it's behaved a little bit like an Easter market. And sometimes it's like a Rodeo Drive or something like that. All the designer stores, everyone will say what's the fashion of the time, and that will be the one that attracts a lot in a lot of ways. And we've certainly got a lot of sidelines which command that. But the beauty of it is, I mean, if from a buying perspective, all the good farms are here. They're always the better pedigrees, and the buyer that the Inglis's have gone through and selected them to a fair degree. So you've got a half a chance that most horses are. You don't have to go hunting right through the hundreds of them to find the good ones, sort of thing. There's a lot to choose from, but just because it's that sort of elite sale, there's a little bit of up and down.
So are you saying there's less margin for error in a sale like this? The percentage difference between the elite horse and the almost elite horse is actually a gaping chasm because of the depth of the catalogue?
Well, I think there's no margin for error.
Yes.
I mean, when you get to this stage and what buyers are expecting and what we're trying to produce, we're trying to get it spot on. It's a few of the other sales are bigger numbers, you've got a general trend, and that can have its advantages too, because you've got a far broader base of buyers. You find buyers for every level, and the previous sales so far, the clearance rates have been exceptional, not better than we've seen for
100%.
from all my time.
100%, but almost.
I've never seen it before. So there's a little bit of a feeling of the vendors that it was going to be as aggressive as that, and Easter is just a bit more like it's been more selective, but it's also more elite.
Are you finding that, David, as in terms of when you're doing your assessments? Are you having to be more precise than ever at an Easter sale?
I think that the quality of the stock has been extremely impressive. Here it's hard to. One of the things, again, from a European perspective, we don't tend to get this sort of depth of pedigree coming on the market. A lot of these of our better horses are in private ownership already. That's right.
Mm.
So you've got a slightly shallower pool to fish in. When with the Vic Alliance, for example, there's a number of very good judges on the team with us,
I only play a tiny part in it. And obviously the horses that when you've got a team buying rather than one person taking a punt, then you tend to, a fault for one person can be got past, but for another person it might be an absolute no play. So you tend to settle on maybe a few more of the obvious horses because you want the very, very best, particularly for a stallion syndicate like that.
Yes.
Trend of Easter, basically.
Exactly. So it's a tricky one. I think Ryan's done a great job today. He's bought a horse for 200 grand, and he's covered all bases in the market. And I know they forgave one horse today that I personally wouldn't have forgiven particularly. But then that's choice.
Do you debate? Is there right?
It's been really interesting. I mean, I've really enjoyed the experience of being here on the grounds with Suman and Ryan and Mitho and Tom the vet, and it's been and Hannah obviously who works with me. So it's been a really good experience. Normally, when I'm buying Sheikh Fahad's horses, Qatar, it's me and Sheikh Fahad and maybe Peter Maloney and Hannah will have obviously their input as well. But at the end of the day, Sheikh Fahad leads it, and I will push hard for the ones that I think we should buy. This is much more of a team effort.
Yeah.
So it's been a really, really good experience. Really enjoyed it, and fun enough, I think some of the better horses are tomorrow. So I'm delighted they've managed to buy 3 today already. Because tomorrow I think is when we'll probably see a bit more of the fun.
Really up against it. Mate, I want to ask about stallions because you mentioned, David, that you've bought across the spectrum. You bought a Hellbent. Would it be a fair characterisation, Peter, that we're actually looking at a much broader stallion bench across Easter than we have in perhaps the last sort of 15 years? Your Written Tycoon makes over $1 million. You both have reason to love Zoostar today, and that we've got a good crop of young stallions coming through. With a lot of talk about the narrowing of the gene pool, are we actually starting to see certain arms of the gene pool branch out again in this market?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to look at the leading 10, 20 stallions which was dominated by Danehill not that long ago, and if you run your eye over them, there's quite a lot of fresh blood in there.
Yes.
And I've seen it happen through things of my age. The horses like.
Well, you remember Eclipse.
Exactly. Thank you. But like Star Kingdom, a bloodline like that which will die out, and Danehill's got to absolute, complete dominance of it, and then we start to see outcrosses. I mean, any farmer that's been done anything with animals and sheep, cattle, horses, whatever, it all works on outcrosses and improving the breed and things like that. So we've seen some really serious outcrosses, and the shuttle stallion developed a lot of that too. It gave us a far broader scope for us to tap into it. And we've tried many, the Coolmore and Darley brought down a lot. We brought down a lot from America in the early days, and we soon learned which sidelines would not work, no matter how hard we tried, and no matter how good they were. That it's learning what horse works with our environment, and what suits our conditions, suits our tracks, and then suits our market when they come out the other side. And we've got other elements to it too. We've got some overseas buyers looking too, so they've got different categories. We've got Hong Kong there, which has got to have a lot to do with why we all blend it together, because it's part of our market. It's quite a serious part, but we've seen some really good fresh blood coming into it, and obviously we've got a great base to it all with Danehill blood certainly that's dominated for a while, but we're seeing a lot of variety now.
I asked this yesterday talking to Mark Player and Chris Watson on Yarns with Gus, and I'll put the same question to you, David. Fillies v colts at this sale, and obviously you're looking with a slightly jaundiced eye given what you were buying here, but are you seeing is this a colt sale, is this a filly sale? Are you seeing a trend either way at this point?
Crikey, there's some beautiful fillies here as well.
Yeah.
I fallen head over heels in love with one that's selling tomorrow.
Is it in Alabama?
Very close by. And it's, there's some beauties. I mean, we're obviously concentrating on it for a colt syndicate. But that said, I'm trying to have a look at everything, and I've seen some absolute stunning fillies. So I wouldn't think it's stronger in one direction than the other. It seems to be strong across the board.
Would you agree there, Peter?
Absolutely. Again, we're here with a lot of depth of pedigree, and what we said before, like, you know, so many breeders will sell their stock where in Europe, and it's more that they keep them, and the opportunity to buy into families here. I know that when we were setting up Vinery, trying to get a broodmare band going, the best place to come was to the yearling sale, because you couldn't buy the broodmares, but they would sell fillies out of those mares, and you can develop families through what becomes available, and it's far healthier.
Health is something that is often used to characterise the Australian bloodstock market at the moment. David, what about back home? I mean, you've obviously been looking on from afar, and you said at the beginning of this chat, with green eyes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it sounds like a broken record. Your prize money levels here, your syndication, there are so many good things going on here. I mean, I just at Randwick on Saturday. You know, if you go racing for a big day like that at home, you know, the racehorse owner is very much in the minority. You certainly get the impression when you come racing here that everybody owns a share of a horse. Even if it's a hare, everybody seems to have flesh in the game.
Yeah,
they can. And that's what creates that ownership buzz. And I love what the likes of Kieran Maher and young trainers here are doing, how they're chalking them up on the board and getting shares sold in them. And as I say, it means that every horse is attainable in the ring. If you're brave enough, you can get it done. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me over the last few days is how there's so many highly talented English horsemen and women over here at the moment.
Yes.
The drain of talent from the UK and Ireland to Australia is another of the side effects of this. You know, you've got such a healthy industry here that some of our brightest and best are now setting up business here, and thank God, you know, flying the flag for us and doing a brilliant job. But, you know, it fills me full of doom and gloom that they're not setting up at home. But you can't blame them.
Yes.
No, the opportunities are enormous, aren't they, for young people to develop in the business.
Are you seeing younger people come through? And obviously there's been a certain pandemic-sized hindrance to a lot of sort of travel and that sort of thing. But now the borders are starting to open up. Is there that itinerant staff issue that we've faced here, is that, as we head towards spring, perhaps
still a problem, and we're still not getting the guys from overseas as much that, you know, we share between each other. The different hemisphere works we can tap into, but that'll be back online again. It's still difficult. It's still difficult to find staff, but these kids can see a career in now, which is the best thing. And Australia, they all think, I could probably own my own farm one day. Like, probably you wouldn't get that quite so much up there. The opportunities are there, and but it's a good lifestyle, and the conditions are as good as anywhere, and you know, they just love it. So if you've got someone who's got a love for the animal and the opportunities, that not only just working with the horses, it's big business now too. So that you can bring in people from all sorts of levels. Not you're just bringing kids from farms or kids, you know, from pony club. You've got people coming out of business into it, and you know, all levels. We're getting fantastic. IT, fantastic intelligence, in fact, all that sort of thing. It's coming in at every angle. So young people are just really driving along big time. And
David, in addition to that, are we getting to a tipping point where the faces that you've become used to competing against at park paddocks for horses, we're going to see more of them at Riverside Stables in Sydney? Do you think there will be people who follow your lead that haven't yet, or are we not quite at that point with the European bloodstock community?
I don't want to be too controversial here. I mean, I still think.
Please, we love controversy. Throw someone under a bus.
I still think that we have the best horses in the world, up sort of from a mile beyond. I think the Australian horses are, and I think that it's going to be fascinating seeing how Zoo-Star gets on with his first runners up there, which is happening right now, because I think the sprinting division down here is very much stronger, and it's fascinating seeing how the European horses get on when they come over here, and how they seem to. I love the fact that Peter Moody said it was because the Australian trainers were so much better than the British ones and the European ones.
That started off a small bonfire, didn't it? Nick Luck spent a lot of time trying to put out.
Well, that's typical Moods. He loves a scrap. But the truth is, I suspect those middle distance horses are just very much better up with us. There's not really much argument about that. So are people going to come and start buying? They're never going to be able to buy horses here to take back to the UK, except possibly for the elite sprinter. It's fantastic hearing that Nature's Strip and
Home Affairs,
and the whole load of, I think there's probably 4 or 5 good sprinters coming back up to Royal Ascot. There wouldn't be much point in anyone bringing a mile and a half horse up to Royal Ascot.
No, I agree completely. Horses for courses.
It's horses for horses. So, I'm one of the reasons I'm involved in the Vic Alliance is that if one of those horses turn into a Royal Ascot horse, it'll be reverse shuttling, and hopefully I'll be involved with it. So that's all a fascinating part of it for me. But are there going to be suddenly droves of European bloodstock agents coming down here trying to bring horses back? No. Are they the dynamic ones, the Farringtons and the De Boers and the Holsworths? They're all down here already.
Yes.
It does mean it's a big sacrifice on your time travelling down here, but it's a fantastic place to come.
I was going to say, it's not too bad, is it, Peter? Australia?
It's pretty good.
I'm delighted to be back here. I absolutely love it, and it's great that we've got a little bit of interest here with Rosemont, and a big interest with Widden, and loving working with both those outfits.
All right, well, I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to ask you both one final question, and this might have been your answer, but a bold prediction for the remainder of the sale, Peter Orton. Have you got anything? A bold prediction for the remainder of the sale, and it doesn't even need to be sale related.
I think tomorrow will get stronger. I think we went into the sale, the vendors were probably over-racing a bit, had bigger expectations, and didn't perhaps, you've got to consider an Easter market where it goes. Buyers have probably gone back and said, well, it's not quite as ridiculous as it's going to be, and we can look at some of those horses we said that we might avoid. And I would think that tomorrow you'll see a more consistent sale, and I think that it'll be a stronger sale tomorrow, and everyone will go away happy.
David?
I thought they were a lovely bunch of horses today. I think there's an exceptional group tomorrow that will exceed what we've seen today for sure.
Sounds like fireworks are in the offing. Good luck, gentlemen. May there be many expensive yearlings for you and many value ones for you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Drink to that.